AITA, for telling my sister that my husband isn't her husband? I'll just get straight to the issue. My female 33 sister, 28, recently rented an apartment in our neighborhood. She moved out after she broke off her engagement with her fiancé of 4 years. She has a demanding job. She works long hours, nurse, and added more days' work to be able to pay for rent. I cook her meals once twice a week and my husband would take them to her. I'd show up and clean the apartment for her out of respect for what she does, which is pretty stressful. I knew she has been struggling, so I did all I could. She'd come over whenever she has a day off to thank us for giving her meals and helping her out with the apartment. However, after a week or so I noticed my husband cooking whenever I say I didn't want to, saying my sister could use a homemade meal. I'd call him to see where he was and he comes home to tell me my sister had him clean the basement so she could move the rest of her things. She called him and had him carry boxes for her for a whole day. She'd call him and not me to bring her a charger because she forgot hers at work. It's like she completely forgot about me. I went to have a talk with her and she barely found the time to speak to me. I asked her why she didn't call me when she needed something but kept calling my husband. She said she didn't notice and that I must be busy with my son, even though my husband would help with him too. I told her to call me if she needed something and let my husband get some rest from working all week. She said okay, but it got too much when she called my husband's phone while he was napping and I answered for him. She told me her kitchen faucet needed fixing and was messing up her kitchen, and so she called my husband to help her fix it. I told her he was napping and wasn't feeling well since the morning, but she kept saying just a few minutes, it won't take long. I reminded her that she should have called my phone, but she said that fixing the faucet was men's work. Anyway, I gave her the number of a plumber we know, but she complained about plumbers taking a lot of money. I snapped and I told her my husband isn't her husband, that she could call whenever she needed something. That just because she lives near she gets to have him work for her. She got upset and I haven't spoken to her since this conversation. My mom knew and berated me, saying she's my younger sister, that she's going through a lot and I needed to help her. She told me I hurt my sister with my comment and that I needed to apologize to her. Edit to say that she rented a ground floor apartment. It has a storage room that looks like a basement and it's obvious she's struggling with rent because I think it's expensive. But it was her decision, so I can't comment on that. Also, those of you asking about her calling her landlord to handle maintenance. I honestly didn't think about it because I never lived in an apartment and I don't know whether her landlord is even aware of these issues, as she'd quickly resort to us for help. But I'm definitely bringing up to see what the issue is. NTA. But, are you sure she really needed him to fix the faucet? Edit, lol, RIP my inbox. But seriously, if your husband isn't complaining a whole lot, that is suspicious. I've been thinking the same thing. Same. Spontaneous basement cleaning seems more than a little suspicious. It also sounds like the husband isn't telling original post where he is either, like she said she would call and ask where he was, then he'd admit to being with her sister. That's sketchy to me. Why wouldn't he tell original post beforehand if he really was just cleaning the basement? Maybe he was actually cleaning the basement, and maybe she asked for help with plumbing because she knows he has a pretty good snake. You never know. Yep, cleaning the pipes. Or give her the pipe. I am pretty sure her drain is a bit clogged. She needs a strong help. Also 24-hour moving boxes? FFS, she was living in a palace before. All damn day. I do my own plumbing. Ma'am, I do my own plumbing. I think original post asked if she was in butthole or not. Not if he was cheating or not, and I'm saying this because I saw this sub in r/relationship_advice ruin relationships because they think they're Sherlock effing Holmes when they're actually the dog who has no idea of what's happening in their lives. And original post stated in her comment that her husband is uncomfortable and tired of her sister, but Reddit is Reddit. Reddit link. If Reddit can ruin your relationship, your problem isn't Reddit. If you're insecure and unsure of yourself and you have a lot of toxic people convincing you that your partner is cheating, then I do suppose that it could cause unnecessary problems in people's relationships. Reddit is too quick to call cheating and tell people to leave their partners. Whether it actually culminates in problems is actually beside the point here. You shouldn't be making sweeping and damning suppositions about other people's relationships based on barely any information about the people involved. It's crappy. I agree, But there are some valid concerns. Even if we assume the husband is just forgetting to tell or thinks it's not a big deal that he helps sister out, there are still valid questions like if she lives in an apartment, isn't it maintenance's job to fix plumbing? And her apartment has a basement? Even if we accept that it does sister really need help with it? I'm not saying there is an affair going on, but there are questions that original post should be asking to set boundaries, if nothing else. We can clearly see that there's an issue here, but we don't have any valid reasons to deduce or suggest that there's any sort of affair happening at this point in time. Therefore, to suggest something as serious as an affair on the basis of the information provided is irresponsible and unhelpful. Putting these kind of thoughts into someone's head is potentially damaging. Whether you think that inferences made on Reddit should affect someone's perception of a situation or not is irrelevant. Some people are affected by what's written on here, hence why people post extremely personal questions regarding their private lives seeking the input of others. They are looking for helpful advice and insights into situations and relationships that are clearly very important to them. It would be foolish to think that the comments made on here don't have any impact on the person asking the question, or else the question wouldn't be posted on here in the first place. I think when someone seeks advice or information regarding a personal situation, you have a responsibility not to feed them with damaging ideas that can have unwelcome ramifications for the asker. Even in the context of Reddit, I think this is important. Before jumping to rash conclusions such as an affair, in this particular post, I would seek to gather more information than what has been provided in the initial summary. Original post has asked if she's the butthole, not if her husband is having an affair. She's clearly not the butthole in this situation. Her sister is putting far too much on original post and her husband. I'd be interested to know specifically why it has irked up. Is she feeling insecure or jealous, and if so, why? Is there anything else, other than what she has already shared, that would evoke these feelings? Or is it simply that she's not prepared to revolve her life around the wants and whims of her sister? On the basis of the response, you may be able to start getting a clearer picture of what's going on. If I'm unable to be clear on whether there's an affair at the root of this situation, then no one else who is reading the exact same text can be. Hence, it is irresponsible to throw around such a serious allegation when it could easily be something as simple as her sister exploiting some free labor. Still not okay, but not so life-shattering. It's unfair to plant seeds of betrayal in people's minds without having some seriously overwhelming evidence to draw upon. You're damn straight right. What a wonderful and needed comment. When you live in an apartment, maintenance is supposed to fix plumbing issues. The sister just needs to contact the landlord. Exactly. That's one of the benefits of living in an apartment. Maintenance and yard work in most apartments should be covered by the landlord or their staff. Op stated in her comment that her husband is uncomfortable and tired of her sister. My ex also used to complain about a coworker and how annoying she was, but then they got married after we broke up, so. Yup. They think they're Sherlock effing Holmes when they're actually the dog. Reddit in a nutshell. I do get a bit bored of anything concerning relationships having most of the top comments jumping to divorce/split up and or your partner is definitely cheating. I immediately assume those comments are from either 13-year-olds who've never had a relationship or 40-something divorcees who are hurt and are projecting their own insecurities. I was wondering the same since she mentioned her sister rented an apartment. Do some apartments have a basement that tenants have to keep clean as well? To be fair, it could be a townhouse and original post just misspoke. In some cities, most apartments are 4-family homes in converted houses, and in those the basement is either part of the lower apartment S, or shared by all. Those 4-family units are the main kind of apartment in St. Louis City, but they're also really common in any old U.S. city with a strong immigrant history. I have access to the basement, but I don't go down there because I'm scared of it. I live on the 3rd floor of an old tenement home. My boyfriend's best friend lives in a really old apartment building from the 1950s. Each tenant gets a cage space in the basement that they can use for storage, and part of the basement is a pull-in garage. Sometimes tenants will have to clean, or rearrange things, in their space to keep it looking neat and tidy. And so that other tenants can get to their storage areas or have enough room in the basement for other stuff. It's funny how in the US a building from the 1950s is really old. I'm assuming you're in the US, but maybe not. The house I live in now was built in the 1550s and the previous one I lived in was built in the 1600s, which is what we could call a really old house here. I always forget how new so much of the US is, relatively speaking. Where I live, a building from the 1950s is called modern. At least when you live in a 400-year-old house, it might be creaky, But contrary to popular belief, so many ghosts have accumulated that they all have someone else to talk to, so you're never bothered by them. Contrary to popular belief, so many ghosts have accumulated that they all have someone else to talk to, so you're never bothered by them. This is a delightful reasoning. You know what they say, in Europe, 100 miles is a long way, and in the US, 100 years is a long time. Your sister is not going to give herself limits, so you need to set boundaries with your husband. He needs to know how you're feeling and why you don't feel their relationship is appropriate. You sound like you're feeling insecure, which is fine, but you need to explain that what he's doing with your sister makes you feel bad. Not the butthole. My husband is clearly feeling uncomfortable having to get things done for her and told me he needed a break but couldn't tell her, seeing how she has been struggling to adapt to her new routine. Since she's calling him, he either needs to stop answering her calls or tell her no. The only way this situation will resolve is for him to put up boundaries. It's awesome that he wants to help her, but she's an adult and she needs to start figuring stuff out on her own. We all are busy, but if I need my faucet fixed, I figure out when I'll be available to have a plumber fix it. I feel like she has an ulterior motive, as do most other posters here, so next time he goes over after she's called only him, go with him and gauge her response. Also, if the sister is renting, it's the landlord she should be calling about the faucet. And probably many of the other things around the apartment. I want to add to this, if he doesn't want to tell her no, then he can block her number. This will force her to have to call you. I agree with this. I had a 6-year relationship and engagement end, and while my family did help out some, I was an adult and had to live by myself, which meant being self-sufficient. Your sister needs a crash course in this. It's not like she had a husband die and left her with a bunch of kids and no place to go. She had a long-term relationship end. It happens all the time. She still needs to be an adult and handle her own life on her own. The having a tough time thing only goes so far. She needs to start handling her own life. Can't afford the apartment? Look for something cheaper and more affordable. Can't figure out how to fix things around the house? Google professionals' numbers or even how to fix the problem yourself. That's what I do when funds are low. If she won't listen, work up a contract where she starts paying you maintenance fees. Bet she starts figuring stuff out on her own real quick then. Also, if she's paying rent, she should be contacting her landlord for that sort of thing. That's like the best part of renting, because then it's not your responsibility to find someone to do it or even pay for. Exactly. He needs to set these boundaries instead of op. This should have been included in the main body of your original post. Went from an ESH to an NTA. She is overly pushy and may be developing a liking to having your husband around doing stuff for her. She might push that boundary further if she was allowed to continue. You could have told her in a nicer way, but honestly she didn't seem to take no for an answer and needed to be reminded whose husband he was. NTA. She won't adapt to her new routine if he is doing it all for her. So much this. Grown-ups can learn things like how to call a plumber, or even how to unclog a drain. YouTube is here for you. But if someone else will take care of it for you, and your family is enabling your apathy, then why bother? It sounds like she's trying to make her new routine to be call sister's husband because he's a pushover. He can always use the "I'm busy right now" response. If it's an emergency, it's one thing, but those don't sound like emergencies. Or even, "Let me talk to op/my wife, we'll get back to you." Apply the Mike Pence rule. He can only come over if wife/sister is there with him. OMG, the one time Mike Pence is useful. As long as he doesn't start calling original post mother. Honestly, NTA. She crossed boundaries. She had a warning. She still did it. Reminding someone of that never hurts. Yeah, but original post needs to let her husband know about the boundaries so the sister can hear no from him. NTA. NTA, I think your sister became accustomed of him showing up when she needs something. I think that you simply defended your boundaries and your husband's needs. The fact you both want to help shouldn't mean that you have to show up every time she needs you. Though, I can imagine that your comment about him being your husband must have hurt. Please stop helping your sister so much. Yeah, it sucks that she has to work long hours to pay the rent, but welcome to the adult world. At 28, she is old enough to figure out how to cook, clean, and fix things in her apartment on her own, which is what she would have to do living anywhere outside your neighborhood. If this is too difficult, she can move back home. It's time for you and your husband to cut the strings and let her rise or sink on her own. Op and husband are enabling, not helping, the sister. They both need to learn to say no. Generally, I'd agree with you. But there are nurses who are working 12 to 16 hours a day, 5 to 7 days per week right now because that's how bad crap is. You can be a fully functioning adult and still break under that stress, especially considering what they're going through while at work. The post said the sister is taking extra hours to pay rent. It doesn't sound like she is working longer hours due to COVID-19, but because she couldn't figure out a budget and then got a place that was too expensive. But if it was due to COVID-19, then I would agree with you. Yeah, timeline is slightly unclear. I don't know how long she's been taking extra shifts. It's possible that it started as needing the money and has continued/increased because the pandemic is getting worse in most places. Also, in non-pandemic times, a lot of places have strict rules on the amount of overtime you can take because they don't want to pay more for overtime. Even in places not facing imminent crisis, like the Midwestern US, nurses have been experiencing significantly more stress. There's worry about catching the disease. There's worry about not having appropriate supplies and appropriate personnel. There's worry about not knowing how bad things could get. Most places are running with fewer staff. It would be hard to not be affected by it, even if the reason she's working more is only for the money. Exactly, you've helped her so much, she's now feeling entitled to it. You needed to establish your boundaries. You can want to help without letting yourself be taken advantage of. Thank you for watching. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. We welcome your comments below. Another of our videos will begin shortly.